Hello, everyone. It's good to see you guys. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. Laura and I are really excited today. We have a special guest. It's a real honor and treat to have her on here, Susan Winter. Susan, thanks so much for coming on. I'm going to introduce you to everyone. Thanks so much for being here, though. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. This is fun.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Susan is a relationship expert and best-selling author of the book Allowing Magnificent and also Older Women / Younger Men. She writes, speaks, and coaches on evolutionary forms of loving partnership and higher thinking. She's an internationally recognized as a thought leader in her field and has been featured on The Oprah Show, The Today Show, Good Morning America, ABC, CBS, and 600 other major media news outlets. You've been doing a lot of traveling. And she's also a frequent guest on NPR, BBC, ABC, and Playboy Radio and CBS News. And she also has a podcast, The Susan Winter Show, which can be heard on iHeart Radio. Susan, thanks so much for taking the time out and being here with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Laura and Jared. Happy to be here.
So we wanted to start this conversation off because everything that's happening in the world right now with the coronavirus, I think it's really important for people to understand how to maintain their personal power in relationship, because that's really being tested right now for a lot of individuals. With your years of experience in this field, where do you see people giving away their power in relationship?
Well, you've got a number of different scenarios. So firstly, let's take, all right, I want to talk about the three and help me not to forget. So I'm going to ask you guys to help me remember. I want to talk about being single and you've got somebody you're interested in. I want to talk about new couples, and then I want to talk about people that live together. Mm-hmm. So let's say you're single and you've just met somebody. Maybe it's a new relationship. You met them right before the sequestering. Every new relationship, it's like walking on thin ice. Anybody that's lived in the Northeast or whatever, there's that immediate freeze and it's clear and it looks solid. You know it's not in every step, and then you pull a crack and you pull back and then somebody pulls back. So new relationships are so tentative and so scary. So in a time with heightened anxiety, which is what we have right now, people are more of whatever they are. They're just anxious. They're more anxious. If they're impatient, they're more impatient. If they're scared, they're more scared. If they're needy, they're more needy, and on and on. So in a new relationship, if you're sequestered and apart from this person, there'll be this incessant need to contact them. And why aren't they calling you back? And why aren't they contacting me? What else are they doing? I know they can't leave the house. Are they talking to somebody else? So a lot of insecurities can come up for that kind of personality. If you have met them and you're in contact with them, then of course there's probably the frequency. Maybe you have less to do than your partner. Maybe you like this person and you're the busier of the two, and you kind of like them, but now you're getting repulsed by them because they need your attention. So we've got this dynamic. Mm-hmm. Then you've got couples that live together or they're married, or let's say I'm going to bunch number 2 and 3 together. They're
newlyweds.
And now you've got massive anxiety. You've got financial insecurity. You obviously have physical and medical insecurity. And we don't know where the end is in sight. So every emotion you have is heightened, and you will be more reactive to whatever it is that your mate says. Even if it's just, you want to watch that? It's like kindling that starts the fire, right? So we have to be exceedingly aware of the fact that we are in an abnormal situation, like a perpetual vacation with somebody where you can't get away. They always say to test your relationship by going on a vacation because it's a stressor, but nobody breaks down why. A vacation,
right?
A crisis, a pandemic. Right. What it does is there are a couple factors. One, we are off our schedule. Gyms are closed.
Right.
We're I know there are at-home routines. I'm not doing planks in my office. I'm not, I could be doing setups. I'm not, so you don't have your exercise as an outlet. Most people either aren't disciplined or don't or whatever. You've got chronic contact with somebody where you cannot maintain personal space. Even if you are one of the many fortunate people that has a real home and you're not in 600 square feet with your partner in a New York City studio, then even if you go to another room, you've got psychic energy. You can feel, you want to separate. It's like, okay, honey, I got to go do my work. But you can feel they're like, oh, they're pissy, they're lonely, they're like, they want to chat, they want to do something. And you're like, I just need an hour. But you already know that you're kind of fighting the fact that they're in your head. Does this make sense, guys? So, there's a lot going on. And did you ask me about power yet? Or did you just ask me about the situation?
Yeah, so we can go into the power direction. I would love that. But
okay.
I totally agree. I mean, the psychic energy, it's like there's no space physically, emotionally, or psychically at all.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I got confused. We had a little chat before the camera started rolling about where we were going to go with this. And you've got some great topics nobody else discusses.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go, Laura.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, do you think with all the stress that's going on, because I have friends as well that are texting me left, right, and center saying, oh my God, I've got to get out. Like, I don't want to be in this relationship. I don't want to be in this house. So do you think that on some level, although it's like stressing everyone out, it's kind of a blessing in disguise? Like maybe you knew you needed to get out, but you didn't. And now you're stuck. And now it's like, do you think it's going to force people to kind of have to do things that they probably should have done or they really need to do, but they haven't?
It can. I think every crisis has a blessing. I've got to believe that. Otherwise, we've written Allowing Magnificence and said, because if you believe everything happens for a reason, then you got to think of, okay, cancer, divorce, death. Okay, there's a reason. Mm-hmm. So and I believe that in the midst of a crisis, we've got to be attentive to and looking for, what is this calling up in me? What changes are occurring? Whether it's, I can handle him for 2 hours at night and a little bit on the weekend. I do not like this person. I've been falling. I've had a get-by relationship. Now I'm really convinced. And yes, you are absolutely right, Laura. It can call out where you were lazy and didn't feel like moving on something, because a lot of relationships are suboptimal. But we're lazy. We get on with our life. We got to deal with this, and now this is coming up, and then I've got to handle this. They're not horrible, but they're certainly not great. And you are absolutely right. A time like this is going to bring everything to the surface, even our career. Are we living the life we want to live? I mean, this is supposed to be a time out. I have been begging for some external excuse to slow my jets. I only know fifth gear. It's like I've got complete crash or ongoing in fifth gear. And I'm like, I see these messages. People are like, oh, I'm watching Netflix in bed. I'm like, who are you? What are you doing? I'm on the phone from 8 o'clock. I've got interviews. I've got videos to do. I've got people jamming me for work. Like, when's the newsletter coming out? You did have to have another. Where's the next video chat? And I'm like, oh my God. Like they push, right? Am I right?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Right? So I want to be in bed watching Netflix. And so I started to think for myself, as you can see, this is not my Manhattan apartment with a white wall behind me and lots of echo. And I start to think about quality of life. In the midst of restriction, you start to long for expansion. In the loss of liberty, you start to yearn for liberty. And in the loss of vibrant life force, you yearn for it. So this is bringing forward in me some real, you don't have to keep doing this. I'm going to.
Right.
Might be able to do it in a way that's a little more agreeable.
I love that because I have the same conversation with myself every 2 years. Every 2 years I have a breakdown. I think, do I really want to go in this direction? Because I'm going hard. And before, what I used to do was I would go hard in one career, and then I would switch careers, go to a different career, go hard, because I thought it was the career, right? You know, and then
same thing. I did the same. I've had numerous careers.
Right.
So what was your final conclusion?
Epiphany. It was something within me. When I was working with my last coach, Michael, who's just been fantastic, he finally opened something within me that realized it wasn't the career. It was a pattern within myself. And once I opened up that pattern, it was great because, and this is going to connect back to relationship. I promise we can swing this. Once I connected with that place within myself, I suddenly knew it was almost like impossible to go at the speed that I always had been before. Like, I'm a Marine by trade, so I'm always like, go, go, go. Like that. Right. There's only one gear. I totally get it.
Right.
He dropped me into some space within myself where I finally realized like I had a reset governor, and like the governor was no longer just 0 or 100. It was like I had control over the governor, and I didn't even know that was possible. And so it created space in my career and in my life, which allowed other things to come in as well too. And I guess how this translates into relationship, which I think is really interesting, is, did you see, the 5 love languages, Susan?
Yeah, I know.
Did you know that they recently added a 6th one?
No. So
they called the 6th love language space.
Oh, you love me, you'll give me space?
Yeah.
You live there, I'll live here.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it's like this new love language is space, and this also can apply to any other area of our life. It's like when we give space in our career, when we give space in our relationship, we actually end up valuing those things more, because that's the very, like, value has a limitation. Like, if we give ourselves constantly to someone, our value goes down in that relationship. But as soon as we increase it with space, value is extended. So there's this really interesting connection that I'm seeing in relationship, but also in my own personal career as well too, with spaciousness and value.
Wow, that's fantastic. I like that. You guys are so interesting to talk to. Everybody else thinks so. I'm having a great conversation.
Thanks, Susan. Cool.
I think it's funny with the space thing, because my first thought is, to me, I think that's so, of course, why is that only been added now? But I think that over the years, we all have this idea of what a relationship is supposed to be like. You're supposed to meet someone, then you date, and then you get married, you move in, you have children. And there's all these boxes. And for me, even recently, I'm sort of thinking, but when you have this expansive love, it kind of feels like some people are trying to put it into a box or put it into something that it's supposed to be, rather than just letting it be free. And I remember seeing a talk that Eckhart Tolle did recently about his relationship, because they live separately. And because they work together. And he's like, if we work together and then we live together, that's a lot of togetherness. So for us, what works is that we work together and then we separate. And he just, I don't know, it just brought this whole concept of like, when we're in love, if we have a relationship, let's just let it be what it is, rather than try and take it and say, let me put it in the box that everyone else needs to have it in, so that it looks like it's a real relationship or it's valid, right? And that's when, we're talking about taking someone's power or not. For me, if ever I try and put something into a box or a category, I feel powerless, because I'm doing it really to make it look like it's supposed to look like for other people. And then I wasn't doing what feels right for me. And then I'm not in my full control of who I am.
I absolutely understand where you're going with that. I have been advocating for something that I've termed a la carte relationships. And it comes from, watching Entourage, where the California people are ordering, I'll have a hamburger without the meat, but then I don't want the pickles and I can't have the bread because it can't be gluten. And so you're doing all these special menus, right? Yeah. But I've been thinking about this for a number of years. And I think that what we're talking about is, as we evolve, the cookie cutter roles no longer apply. This is what millennials did. They broke open the whole mold of man, woman, dating, courtship, living together, marriage. They broke all that open. Now that's cool, except you've noticed there's no infrastructure.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I've been fighting and struggling to create some kind of context. So theoretically, I absolutely agree with you. I would take that one step further, Laura, in that ultimate freedom of not knowing what you have with this expansive love. It sounds good in theory, but the human going through those emotions, that is very nerve-wracking. People need to have context. They need at least to have an agreement, not labeling boxes, but I believe in agreements. I believe in terms of engagement. I believe in a verbal contract. And if you want to, I have no problem with written contracts. I've got entry, I've got in the relationship, I've got goodbye contract, I've had to. When you've got partners 20 years younger, you've got to start with going, okay, here's how it is. If this happens, I would prefer this. And if this, and you have the right to, what do you think about that? So I did all that. Quite honestly, I hammer that stuff out before I go to bed. Going to bed with somebody is the last thing I do. I have never been hurt once when I waited for them to be in love with me before I slept with them. Every time I tried to jump the gun, which is what we've had in the last 20 years, nothing but whiplash. Move at their own pace, and if you can withstand it, that's fine. And a lot of people don't have the same kind of disposition that I do, and so you've got to know how you're built. You've got to know how you're built. And that goes back to, what do you want? What do you want to create? When I'm talking about these evolutionary forms of relationships, it's the basics. Do I want monogamy? Do I not? If I have monogamy, how do I want it to look and feel in the real world? But you do need to give that person some bit of validation, some bit of honoring. I mean, the worst thing is a girl gets slept with, and you've been sleeping with her for a while, and you take her to some event and you introduce her as your friend. I mean, she's insulted, and rightly so. So we have to find a language and to make our partner feel safe, and for us to be in agreement with how we want to structure the relationship, and not just for today, but to allow it to grow. And both people need to be able to come to the table and negotiate and not be mute. Do not let them drive the boat for you. Do not. And my greatest worry is I watch all the millennial girls so confident in everything they do in life, get into a relationship, and they go mute. I'm going to speak up. What if I'm difficult? What if he doesn't want me? Then you don't want him. I mean, I think people have forgotten their basic human rights. That if you're sleeping with somebody, you have a right to say how that's going to be. And you have a right to express what you'd like to experience in the relationship. They don't have to give it to you, but you certainly have every right, and you have the necessity to do so, because it's like taking a ship out on the water and like, where are we going to go? Oh, I don't know, wherever you want to go. Oh, okay. I mean, there's a place for that early on, experimenting. You don't know what you want, but when you start to know who you are, you've got to kind of put these pieces in place. I know, Jared, I can see you're going, yeah. So let me shut up. You just have something to say.
Sorry, I'm just getting so excited because I love this conversation, because there's this like interesting thing that's happening in the world where we have the millennials, like Laura and I. I'm 30. Laura, you're 31 or 29?
Yesterday. I'm
That's right. Yeah. And so we're coming like I'm coming from this space of, well, there's so many options, so many availability, which because we grew up with the internet and online dating, obviously your generation, Susan, didn't have those options. So it was kind of just like, okay, we
went into a relationship.
Right. And so there was more security there, and there was more of a container.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing this interesting like generational clash, and it's almost like both generations right now, like we're all trying to figure out like, how do we navigate this new space? Because I don't agree with free love and just like sleep with whoever you want and just throw your energies around and not have standards for a relationship. But then again, like there's something about the cookie cutter where I'm just like, that doesn't necessarily resonate with my being either.
If you're a grown-up, if you have evolved and grown, you can't just check off the 2 boxes. You can't. It's so much more. This is where you get to create. You get to make the rules. It's your rules. I remember. Okay, so I've had so much press, and I'm so grateful for it. And I get close to, the people I talk to all day are either clients or press, right? And so one gal's getting married, and she had done beautiful, beautiful interviews with me. Very fair, absolutely not coming with a bias at all. And she said, we're getting married, but we're not going to be like other people. And it was almost apologetic. So what she was saying is, she's a young girl. She's like, we're going into a standard structure, but we're not going to do it like everybody else. And so she was already aware of this years ago. And I thought it was interesting because that comment happened some 10 or 12 years ago. So people, you can have whatever kind of relationship you want and create the dynamics that work for you. And by the way, it might take some experimentation to know what works and what doesn't. Give it a trial basis. Let's try this and then revisit it. Let's see if we like to do this. Maybe we don't like to do this. And then you create, see, here's where I think it would work for millennials. Everything they do is together. Communal tables, communal work, they love being together. Why not negotiate together? Negotiate. This is your partner. It's no different than working on a project. I see it this way. What do you see? Oh, would want to try that? I'm not sure that that's effective, but you know what? I'll tell you what, just in fairness, let's try it for 3 weeks, see how we feel about it, and then come back to the drawing board. And now you've factored in growth.
I love that. Yeah. Laura, you had that experience pretty recently, yeah?
Yes, I did. Yeah. Yeah, because it was my first opportunity to have a relationship that was really open and we could have communication. But there was also, you both have to be totally on board with the idea that you're going to structure it in a way that works for you. I think for him, he was more, let's structure it the way everyone expects us to structure it, which I couldn't get on board with. That didn't connect with me because, I've always been like that. I can't fit in. I've never fitted into anything. It used to be a problem. Now I love that I don't fit in. But yeah, it was, you both have to be, like you say, you have to have an idea as to where you want to structure it and how you want to do that. And you have to keep revisiting it. Something that we were really good at was constantly communicating with each other. And that really does work. And you can build, as long as you continue to stay on board with each other.
Can I ask you a question? Okay. Name one aspect you're comfortable with naming that didn't work for you in a standard structure. The one that you definitely want to alter. Like, okay, I like the idea of us being together, but I don't like this preconceived cardboard cutout. Or can you think of one thing? And I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I think it's
the first thing I think of is actually sex.
Okay, you do sex or you don't want sex?
I can't, relationships, how we talk about you meet someone, you move in, you get married, you have babies. Same with sex that I found with guys when I did sleep with them. We do this in the bed, then we do that, and then we do that, and then we do that, and then we do this.
Right, the formula. Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
That was something. So
how did he take that? By the way, I got a few little notes for the bedroom here, by the way.
At the beginning, it was fine. And then the thing is, it breaks down someone's ego when you tell them that they actually don't have to be in a structure anymore. So if in someone's head they go, so I have to do this and do this and do this and do this, because then I'm valid because I've done all the things that I'm supposed to do. When you remove that from someone's psyche, they don't, it's like you were saying, they don't know where to go. And they don't know how to flow with it. And they don't know how to create a new formula. And it kind of does trigger them. But for me, I was the same. I would say, I'm not sleeping with anyone until we have a relationship and we have a connection and we committed and we know where we're going. That was totally fine for the first time ever. Normally guys say, okay, yeah, fine. And then you give it a month and they go, come on. And you say, well, no, it's not time yet. And they leave. This guy was willing to stick around. But then when it came time to that, it was a trigger. It was a bit of a problem because people want to be in structures. They feel safe and they feel valuable in a structure.
True. And he also felt in control.
Sure.
Yeah. As much as we think men would like this, the freedoms that we're trying to offer by offering a bigger design, it for some people it scares them. They would, believe it or not, they'd rather have the smaller design only because they know what it is.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They're comfortable they feel safe.
Yes.
They know it, they understand it, they've always done it. That's what they want. You offer them something grander and they go, oh, I don't know, I think I'll just stick to it.
I know. Theoretically, it's enticing. In the real world, you're going to have some say no. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to go with a partner and explore an expanded version of what you can be together and still understand that, in every step you're agreeing or not. You're never getting this direction you don't want to go in, but just to explore. And that's the growth. And so I'm excited we're talking about this because for me, in the year 2000, I sat back and I said, no more. I cannot do standard relationships.
Yeah.
And it isn't that I didn't do monogamy, did that. I was a great girlfriend, had decade-long relationships. I've been loved more than any woman should ever be loved, I think. I've just had the most loving partners, whatever, even the bad boys. It was just, but at the same time, I started to think, first I wondered if it was me. And then I realized, oh my God, it's the structure. The structure is inherently flawed. In order to give you safety and security, you have to give predictability. And so you take away the spontaneity and the exploration. So you've got these two solid things fighting against each other. For me, I thought, I've got a conflict. I have a constant inner conflict. I want sexual exclusivity and intimacy and deep connection. At the same time, I crave independence and the ability to be able to, walk away if I want to and not beg a judge and beg a partner and beg them and stay trapped for a year in something I need to get out of. It just seems crazy to me. So I didn't want to talk about it because I didn't know if people would understand. And when I posed it to prospective partners, they looked at me like I was offering them the world, but then they were, Laura, terrified to try it because somehow the unfamiliar nature of it made them not feel in control. And I had a very hard time finding a willing participant to create the vision I wanted to create. And so I started doing radically different things just to shake it up then I started doing research, on myself to see if I could change it. So I'm very convinced that I cannot change my disposition. And I don't think it has to do with the time period in which I was born. I think it's the way I feel and the way I connect to people. And at this point in my life, I'm probably not going to be able to change my disposition. When I love, I'm all in. When I'm attracted to you, I want to be with you. But I'm not, how can I say it? I've never been able to really believe in forever. No, that's really dangerous for a relationship. If this is for me, I can help somebody else get there. I don't even want what you want in order to help you get it.
Right.
Weirdest request from clients. It's like, fine. I don't have to want it. I don't have to value it. I just got to help you get it in the most ethical way possible. But it's always been hard for me to imagine that. And it was never because of sex. It was because of mental stimulation. I wondered what partner I would continue to find exciting and dynamic. And I guess they should be wondering the same about me. Maybe after a year, it's like, oh God, I know exactly what she's going to say. I'm bored to death, But I wanted to explore being fully present in the moment, giving stability to something that I'm with you, I'm your partner, I'm not dodging this, and then open communication like you, Lauren, seeing when it starts to feel stale, what is the answer other than breaking up? Is there something else we can do or try or think or, to make it work? Instead of just lugging each other into the end, crossing the finish line together, exhausted and like, well, I made my decision. I got to live with it. That just didn't seem like a workable model to me, right?
Well, so Susan, it almost sounds like then this next maybe relationship, like you used a word earlier, a la carte.
The a la carte relationship. Yeah,
a la carte relationship. It's almost like it's a constant reevaluation and negotiation on how you want to grow together, if you want to continue to grow together. And like, that's the structure. The structure is having the ability to communicate and negotiate with one another. And I really love that because that sounds like it's very freeing, but also at the same time, you're going to have to be okay with your partner up and leaving at, and you with up and leaving at any moment. So it takes a really secure individual, I think.
Well, they might not. The thing is, you have to provide both things at the same time. Solid structure, which means you give it a name, you give it a context. You build a new name if you don't have a name for what your partner is to you. Make it valuable. We've got to create new language, new terms in order to describe these new things. It would be like adding 1 and 1, and then we suddenly get another 1. We're going, no, it's always been 2. We got to make it 2. But because we have new input, we are changing. We need to update our designs. But so we take the committed structure and we take open communication, but we factor growth inherently into the design, understanding that we are of the same mental philosophy that we want to grow, and that will involve the growth is like the DNA thing. It's like sometimes you've got to grow apart. I can't get freaked out if you start yoga, hot yoga, and I don't like it, and all the girls are cute. I can't freak out about this. We've got to be in contact. I'm not, because hopefully when each expands in their own direction, they come back together as more interesting and new people. So that's how you keep the relationship fresh.
Yeah.
Right. See, in traditional relationships, it's like a train track. We do the same things. And that's why you see those couples at dinner and they don't say anything because they're like bored. They're done talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's uncomfortable. It's scary. If you don't have a structure, you can't set the premise for we are allowed to have our individual interests. And then you define how far out of the box that is, what degree you communicate with others. You set your own parameters, but we come back together. And the reason of our individual interests is self-growth that makes us more interesting and renews us as a person. So you're constantly restarting the relationship with the same person who's a new person.
I love that. That's really exciting and fresh. Great.
You guys, I presented this stuff over 25 years ago. Nobody knew what I was talking about. And it's all sitting in my computer. And I just got frustrated. I took it from one publisher to the next. They're like, yeah, this is really great. But can you write like, hey, girls, get that guy? I thought, no, I can't. I just left it in there.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just too soon because I think now this is what we need to do.
I mean, it's because I was actually having a conversation this morning, so maybe 2 hours ago with my friend, because I was talking to her about, the Buddhism, the teaching of impermanence. Nothing is permanent. And that's
the non-attachment, right?
Right, exactly. So, but I've had connections, one of my ex-boyfriends, we've been friends for years, and we tend to, even just as friends, we go apart. We don't speak for months. And he's learning something, I learn something. We come back together and go, we're new people, but we still connect, and then we go apart. And I believe you can do that in relationships. I actually
imagine it narrowing, not this. Imagine it.
Right.
That's the ideal version. I drew it in a diagram because I didn't know how to explain it to people, and that's what I saw in my head as the ideal version. But to make it work, I truly, truly believe this is where the bit of old school comes in.
Yeah.
In order to trust you, in order to feel safe, in order for me to explore with you, I've got to know you're there for me. I've got to know you're there for me. You can't just push me to do all this stuff. So I'm like trying to be open and free and do all this weird stuff I don't want to do to keep you, to make you happy, but I don't really want to do it. So it's got to be, I feel safe and secure with you because I know your love is solid. And so I think it's the human love that allows the romantic love to flourish. Topic. No matter what, I'm here for you. This is the dance we're doing. This is how we want to do it. But as human being to human being, I'm not going to screw you over.
Yeah. Goodwill and respect for the other. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I've noticed just even along my own journey and some of the clients that I've coached that, there was times where I can look back in relationships where I ended them early or they were ended early on me. And when I looked back on it, it was, oh my gosh, I just didn't have the communication or relational skills necessary at that point to actually continue that relationship. And I think I love this that's awesome. I think it's like the next form of relationship that speaks to the millennials, but also, it's that missing link that everyone's kind of looking for, but it's also going to require some good relational communicational skills as well too.
That's inherent. You can't do this based on assumption.
Right.
First of all, the philosophy has to be similar and the openness and dialogue, because you're going to hurt your partner. Yeah, and your partner's going to hurt you. That happens in every relationship. Things are going to be misunderstood. Like when we went back to the beginning of our conversation, somebody's going to be in a bad mood or have a bad day, or they'll feel tense. You say something that's misinterpreted, then they go with it, then they don't communicate, they're upset, then you get reactive to their reactivity.
Right.
So it has to be understood that this is what happens to humans. Then we have to have protocol in place with how do we deal with that. I used to take my control panel, kind of like, because I'd built a home. Well, I mean, I didn't personally build it. I had it built for me, right? And I remember where the control panel was in the garage. And so they're showing me, like, this is the air conditioning, this is the electricity for this. And so I thought, oh, this is great. I should tell my boyfriend about my control panel. And so I said, just so you know, when you keep pushing this button, that's the one that makes me go off. And here's why. It's because I feel like this, this, and this. I don't like it when you have that because it really diminishes me. And I know exactly how I'm going to attack you. I'm going to do this. I'm begging you. I'm telling you where this is so you don't push those buttons so I don't have to go to my default. Please don't do that to me. And I thought, I can't be more transparent than that.
Yeah. I love that because the clients that I have, they are very sort of spiritually evolved, and they don't know. They tend to sometimes think, and I've felt this way too, that when you're conscious and when you're awake, that you can meet someone and it is all la-di-da and it can be very conscious and awake, but you have to come back to the basics of, don't do this. This is my trigger point. Don't hit that button. This one's okay. But like knowing and having the communication saying that isn't okay. You can't, because having a voice, I think there's something in the spiritual community where they think that they can't voice something, or they think
it's
that's
uncool.
Fix that. It's like, no, that's a button, right?
Right. Like we shouldn't have buttons if we're really on our spiritual journey. Okay.
Right.
So I was born in LA, but I've been on the East Coast long enough. So my spirituality is practical. I live in the real world. Stuff happens. Not everything is nice. I know that.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do is I think what happens is we go to one or the other. We tend to go to black and white. We're either airy fairy, it's okay, it's all good. No, I slept with him, but you don't understand. We were connected in my second life, and he was my husband. So actually, I'm cheating with you, but I believe in love and all this nonsense, like with nothing. And you're like, oh, where am I? Then you've got the other really rigid. So it's neither. So we're walking a road into a new time period where we have to look at what works anew. That's the a la carte that we want to take. I like potatoes. I don't care. I just like them. I'm putting them on the menu. But I don't want the meat. I think I'll have the chicken. So, this is what we've learned. And then we find new things. I've never tried that. I don't know how I'm going to feel about that, but I can get back to you. You love it? Why do you love it? Let me think about that. I can try it, but if I don't like it, I'm not doing it. Is that okay with you? Okay. So it can just be like that, right? But we need structure and freedom. That's tricky for people. That's why I think giving our partner a sense of security. I'm here. I'm rational. I care for you. We can talk about things. We can never give a guarantee. I know everyone wants it because bottom line is nobody wants to be hurt. And until we really address the default of what hurt is, everybody's going to be terrified to get into a relationship. And I didn't mean to start on a whole new topic, but we just have to make peace with the fact that when you love something deeply, things can happen. Your dog can die. It's going to happen. A parent will die. A relationship may end. It may end sooner than you wanted. It may end unexpectedly. You may have to leave them and then live with guilt because they were kind of nice. They just weren't right. So we have to accept this and not be like, oh, I can't believe it happened. This is like, that's the price.
Yeah.
So let's kind of get with the program, quit being fearful, do what we can do, and not edit ourselves from loving just because, if we don't like those rules, let's find our own rules, right?
I love that. Yeah, I think it's so important to recognize the playing field that you're on, and you don't have to step on the field if you don't want to, but if you're going to step on it, like that's the risk. Like, going for business or for yourself, loving another human being, you're opening your heart up. Like anything good, there's going to be potential for collateral, but I mean, why really do it any other way if you want to get the juice and the experience of life?
I agree. And so we can't be afraid of these things. We have to be very aware that but I'll tell you what, you will be less hurt, I believe, in all of my research and my personal experimentation, you will be less hurt if you reveal who you are and have the willingness to have a dignified, self-possessed love that basically says, look, I love you. You're just going to have to deal with it. That's my truth. Let's see what we can do about it now. And make them feel, listen, if I make them feel certain, the ride's going to be a lot less difficult, because it's normally their reactivity that I have to worry about, because then they trigger me. Half the time when couples separate in the newness of a relationship, it has nothing to do with them not liking each other. They're just so scared. It's like horses, one flinches, the other's running. Just scared.
Right. Or they're fighting with an idea of who they think that other person is because they haven't actually experienced the real intimacy yet. I've seen that happen before too, where it's like you're just fighting with a conception of who you think your significant other is, but that's not actually who they are. I can see that.
Do you think there's something that individual could do to show them who they really are that would make them feel more calm?
What I've always done whenever I've coached someone in that space, I've always just asked them to, if they can set aside the conception of who they think they are and just get curious. Like I'll have them do a game where they just look at their significant other, they think about them, and they just get curious like a child for an hour straight. And it's so fast because a lot of times we're coming, can this person give to me what I'm looking for, what I want? But if you want to create intimacy real quickly, I've found that if you just go back to your childlike state and get curious about a human being for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you will create way more intimacy with them quicker than any textbook could show you just by getting curious. Like, I wonder what's this person thinking right now, or I wonder what they like, or I wonder, and I found genuine curiosity really just opens up room for a lot of intimacy.
I love that. It's what I call seeing with new eyes. If you've ever had somebody in your family that has really harmed you, hurt you, and for whatever reason, in your own philosophical standpoint, forgiveness is not acceptance of what happened. It's not permission for it to be okay. But sometimes you want to grow beyond that just for yourself, to not carry the burden. And in which case, you have to see them with new eyes. Or if you want to stay with a partner who has deeply hurt you and they screwed up and they are truly sorrowful and you think it's worth walking through this with them, and you've made an assessment that is not out of fear or out of insecurity, but that you really care for them and you can kind of, like, you hate the fact of what they did, then you would have to see them with new eyes and quit with the resentment and beating them up. But it's great whether it's that we have created an ideal of a person that's invalid or constricted them in a way that's not true, or that we just can't see who they're becoming because we've locked into who we think they are. I think that's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about this, I think, in a live yesterday, didn't we? About that dynamic, because I get a lot of people as well that they want to be with someone and they say, oh, but he can do this and he can do that. And I think he can awaken. And if he's here, he can do that. And I say, well, that's amazing. Is he doing that? And they say no. And I go, so are you wanting him, or are you wanting something that you're just trying to put on him? And now they're the clients that come to me, they're so upset and they're sad and they're frustrated. And it's because they're taking this beautiful concept of pinning it on a person that doesn't want to be pinned into it. And it's
we all do it. We find the container we like. It's like, oh, I'll make him brilliant. I'll make him excited. I'll make him ambitious. Yeah, he's just good looking. Come on. Yeah. Oh my God, the guys that call me, they'll go on and on and on. And then I did this and then I did that and she doesn't do this. And I'll ask a couple questions and I'll say, she's hot, right? And they'll go like, oh God, she's an 11. I said, so that's where the money went, right? I mean, you can't, people lose their minds over this stuff. And Laura, try and put into that container every quality they've ever wanted. Found the box, can't wait to put the insides in. It's actually kind of the other way around, right? Find the insides. And you know what? People don't have to fret about this. You're never going to get with somebody you're just, I mean, if you want to throw up just looking at them, it's never going to happen. But if you start to focus on what qualities you want to experience, and then that person is magnetized into your life because of where you're vibing, you'll notice somebody you might not have noticed before that you find agreeable. And then that's, I think, the better selection process.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love the focus on what you want to experience instead of not what you want from them. I think that's such a key distinction, because so many of us, and I've been totally guilty of this in my past, where we'll focus on, oh, I want them to be this way, I want them to be that way. And then if they're not that way, then we end up having a bad experience. But if you just focus on the experience you want to have with them, that totally changes the dynamic. And I know they feel that, like a person usually feels that there's not that pressure of the expectation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jared, you're right, because this conversation that we're having is we're trying to unlearn what has locked us into an old dynamic that we understand, but maybe we don't want to participate in 100%. So it's going to take a bit of unlearning as we look at people, because, you know, we're going to have to do our own self-assessment in order to get to this new location of how do we communicate these things. And so we're going to go through the same paces and then catch ourselves as you did, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's funny. Sorry, can I just?
Yeah, go for it. I just want to make an announcement because we're coming up. I know we got about just under 15 minutes here. Guys, if you want to start asking questions, feel free to put your questions up there on the comment section, and we'll start asking Susan those questions as well.
Is this live?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
God, I didn't know. Hi, everyone. I have no idea.
Everyone's commenting and yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Laura. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to make an announcement there real quick.
I would love your opinion on this, because I wonder if you experienced this. I had this moment where I realized, it's actually really recently, I was in Byron Bay up north of Australia, and the energy there was really high. And I was sitting out in the garden, I had my bare feet on the ground, I had a cup of tea, and I thought, I have everything I need right now in this moment. I'm completely whole. I need nothing. And I need no one. And in that moment, I realized, okay, so I think I was chasing relationships to try and fill a void that was in me, which now I kind of found where I was at. And then there was a realization that if I'm always feeling this great, there's a chance that I may never be in a relationship, possibly. I kind of like relationships. I love exploring them. I love, but there is a chance that if I feel this fulfilled, I don't know if I haven't met anyone yet that could match that per se. But the idea of letting go of ever meeting anyone, that scared me. I realized it, but I hadn't aligned with the concept of this could be it. And it was enough. But the old mind was like, so what, you're just going to be on your own forever? And that was scary. I was not ready to go there, even though the energy had come in. Now it feels a little bit more gentle. And I think actually that's what creates relationships anyway, when we feel fulfilled and we feel whole and we don't need anything. Then they're all queuing up at your door, right? So did you have this moment where you either realized relationships aren't what people are telling me they are, or I have my own idea of where I want to go? Did you have that moment of like uncertainty, of where, like Bambi, like where you want to put your feet, and did it feel okay?
Well, first around 2000, I had the idea that I had to do it differently. And I got pretty clear on the fact that they don't have it. I tried this one. I'm going to try it from scratch. And I did it from scratch. Had to trust myself. Yeah. But the other thing you said, that realization, that just happened to you about 35 years sooner than it does for most women. We get that in perimenopause. It's like, really? What was I thinking? Honestly, because you start to get very comfortable with yourself. Yeah. But I have to tell you two quick things, because I know you're going to have questions coming up. One thing is that the only place from which you are actually making a selection out of real choice is when you're comfortable with yourself. You know that, right? Mm. And when you have that experience, even if it's just momentarily, it's in your head. So it's in your body. So it's in your fibers. So it's now a part of you, right? You didn't beg for it. You didn't go to a retreat where they told it to you and you went alone. You're like, you had it for a second, then you leave on Monday, it's gone, right? You evolved into that. Mm. The second part is, I can't tell you how many women I know who are completely fine, and they are gorgeous and young and single and fertile. And they're like, I don't have the urge. I don't know why. Now, they're also in incredibly stressed jobs. And they have put all of their, and it's not like they had heartache one after the next. So let me address it in this way. With all that we've talked about love and optimal love and how you can reach optimal love, there are times in a person's life, or maybe the entirety of their life, when not because of emotionally defective issues, they actually come to a place where they're good. They're good on their own. And we have to honor single by choice, or what do you call it, self-partnered. People think of that as the default where the cripples end up, like, oh, you're in the basket with all the broken toys. But it's not. It's not. So I wish everybody would come to that realization from your aspect, that that's quite beautiful. I think you're far too curious to have that be permanent.
Right. Yeah.
And I think you like to create and build.
Yeah.
You're kind of like curious as to what you can create out there now with all this knowledge. But what a beautiful place to be, to realize that, yeah, I like myself. That's what I call being in agreement with oneself. I don't go for the moonshots like fall in love with yourself, because I'm not even sure what that means. But what I can say, I don't. I mean, I have to tell you the truth. I mean, I don't know what it is to love oneself. I don't know that I love myself. I do know that I'm in agreement with the choices I've made, which are the sum total of who I am today. I can be in agreement because I know where they were trying to take me, and I like the person I have become. I do. And for that, I like it, And so I think being in agreement with oneself is, for me, the closest thing to being at peace with oneself, and maybe what people want to call self-love.
Yeah, because there's a lot of new age terms, isn't there, that kind of float around self-love and all this stuff. And I agree. It's kind of like if someone said, well, what is that? Because people ask me that, and I think,
it's a word. It's like, what is God? It's like, well, I'm not sure. It's like getting a massage.
Too much pressure.
What does self-love mean? Like maybe I catch myself if I'm negative or beating myself up, or maybe I cut myself a break, or maybe I just say, I'm okay. I'd like to always be better. I'd like to be more, but maybe some things are okay. Self-acceptance, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm going to go bring some questions on here for you, Susan.
Okay.
So we have Goddess Michelle. It looks like Goddess Michelle. She says, "Is it possible to have love when you have doubts?"
Yeah. No, but you're entering unknown territory, and you're flying by the seat of your pants. Every great actor has that moment of doing improv. You get better at it with practice. But everybody has doubts. I'm not sure what she means, whether it's self-doubt or doubts about the person. But you can experience love and have self-doubt. You can experience love and at certain points have doubt about your partner's commitment.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I think this is kind of going off of what we were just talking about. She expounds on that, and she says, can you accept love when you don't love yourself? And this is more of a kind of, this might be a little bit more philosophical, but can you shed maybe light on that?
So here's my thing about that. I think she's already a loving person. She's wanting to love. She thinks she doesn't love herself. I think you got no problem, Goddess, loving other people. Loving yourself, that's a quest we're all on. Okay, that's right. It adds to it. It makes it better. It's the people that can't feel, that have cut off feelings altogether. In order to minimize the negative, they've minimized the positive. I tried this as an experiment. I pulled myself over the edge of loving a guy who wasn't in love with me so much during my exploration time period. I threw myself into the worst case scenario. It's like, you think you're good? Is your philosophy right? Let's try it with this one. This is impossible. And I literally pulled myself back over the edge. And the only way I could do it is I made myself feel as little as he did. There was no pain. There was no joy. I'm guessing you're not that girl. So love and feeling love is contingent upon the capacity within that individual. That's why some people are doted on by their parents and loved by people, and they're immune to it because they're not in touch with their own reservoir. That's my view.
I love that. Yeah. And I just know in my experience, like when I think about it, if I'm like working too much or doing stuff and I'm not giving enough self-care, then it's almost like I start attracting things that reflect that reality back to me. And then I'm like, oh, okay, that's a good signal that I need to go back and kind of fill my own cup. I think it's like a never-ending process. I don't think it's just, do I love myself or do I not? And I've done years of therapy and coaching, and finally I love myself. It's like, I think it's that reservoir of, okay, just kind of staying in balance. That's been my experience at least.
You guys are so right. We didn't have these conversations years ago. I was waiting for them. Nobody would talk. I had nobody to play with for years. I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. I'm so proud of you both and leading others into this understanding. Thank you for this.
Well, thank you, Susan. I mean, you've laid down the foundation years ago, so it went out somewhere. Are you still good for about one or two more questions, Susan?
Yeah.
All right, great. So I'm going to go to Stacy's question here. Stacy says, you've communicated to a new interest you desire a conscious relationship. You can tell they are trying, but not quite there to the level you desire. What to do? Be patient? ?
With all relationships where you're not sure about your partner, give it a time frame. Give it like a couple months where you're going to give it a concerted effort, try to explain, try to communicate. Sounds like you're teaching this person a new dance step. Maybe they're not a brilliant dancer. Maybe it just takes them a little bit of time to get used to it. So give it some time. We don't give it forever, but we give it some time, okay? Because you're measuring each day. I have this belief that we have an internal computer that's our own best accountant. That accounting system racks up every plus and minus, every I like this, I don't like this, he, she was good to me, he, she was bad to me. It's got a tabulation that's absolutely accurate. You know at all times. And so if you give it a little bit of time, a couple months, you're going to know your sum total. Have you put out more than you're going to get back? You can tell a pattern of behavior. So that's what you're looking for. Are they willing and able to grow with you? That's what you're looking for.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I love her reply. That's wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're all filling the F out, right? Yeah.
Right. Beautiful. I think does anyone we got time for one more question and then we're going to close up here. Any other questions that you guys want to ask Susan?
There was a question up there by Divine Knowledge, who I believe we're coaching soon. Question.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
He says, to what extent should someone draw boundaries in a relationship of any sort? Sometimes I get confused between duty and what my role is in that relationship.
Oh, you're lovely. You're more traditionally trained. Duty kind of scares me in terms of a relationship. My impression is that you have come preloaded with the information that you provide, protect, love, and support. We do not indulge crazy. We don't indulge bad behavior. There is no coddling for that. One of the foundations that everybody should have is that you deserve to be treated with respect. You will love your partner and treat them well. But if you don't find that they are doing the same for you, that's a red flag and you can walk away. You're just looking for the right combination here. And that's for your enjoyment too. It's not your duty to suffer. That isn't a proof of whether you're loving or a good person. You can lose vital life force that could be applied to help other people in other ways or to find your ultimate partner with whom you have the best, co-creative partnership and serve the highest good for the two of you. So we never put up with bad behavior. We don't amend ourselves downward to accommodate a lesser individual who would ask us to do less in a relationship. That is not our duty here. Your real duty is to yourself and to life, to be the finest human being you can be and to live in an environment where you have eliminated unnecessary things that would hold you back from giving your contribution of service to the world.
Wow, beautiful.
I'm literally in awe listening to that. That was fantastic.
What a beautiful note to end on.
You guys are great. So are we meeting next week? I mean, here's my coffee chat with you guys. You're phenomenal.
love to have you back on. Seriously, this has been amazing. This has been fantastic.
I'm so encouraged when I see voices like you and knowledge like you, because it's been such a mess. And I felt like for years, I was like, I got to help them. I don't know if they're listening and I don't want them to hurt each other. And now I see there's so many good voices and great perspectives. And Jared, you've got wonderful tips. And Laura, you've got such an abundance of love and creativity. You can harness all the woo-woos out there and teach them how to love. You know what I mean? Because they don't have, it's like, you can get them structured and get them to just love it, this massiveness with your explosive spirituality, and then to ground it in functionality. This is what we're looking for, right?
Yes. Yeah, Laura and I always talk about heaven and earth and then meeting right in the middle, like grounding heaven on earth and meeting that center point.
That's beautiful. I think that's living an optimal life, the physical and the spiritual. You know, we're not put in physicality for nothing. We've got to accept it's part of the deal. We're supposed to understand it as spiritual beings compressed into this physical, probably fairly low-level life, oftentimes beautiful level, but it's probably a very dense atmosphere for our soul. So what we have to do is try to merge the two and make ourselves functional while allowing for the divine to work through us, right?
Beautiful. Susan, thank you so much for taking the time to come on. We've really appreciated your time. We really loved everything that you had to share. We're so excited. I'm sure you'll do great on your Washington Post interview. Can you tell the audience, what are you doing right now? And do you have anything that you're, like any programs or anything like this, and where people can find you?
Come to my YouTube channel, because that's where I do the most. Susan Winter on YouTube. I think I was Susan E. Winter. I got there late. And my website, susanwinter.net. I'm on Instagram, Susan E. Winter. Just come chat me up. I'm going to do a live segment when I get off with you guys and off with the Washington Post. And just love to hear from you. SusanWinter.net has all the different social media sites. Chat me up and let me know you found me here.
Beautiful. And everyone, if you want to check that out, the links are right there in the YouTube description box below, so you can go ahead and click that if you want to check out Susan's channel. Susan, thank you so much again for coming on.
Bye, guys. You're awesome. Thank you. Tremendous work. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Beautiful. All right, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed the interview. If you, I think we're going live again, Laura, in about 2 hours. So we do have some live coaching. If you guys want to come on for that, we're doing that at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Laura and I will be coaching an individual. If you hadn't yet, please sign up for the Sacred Relationships series. We'll be doing that. The links are right there in the YouTube description box as well. Thanks so much for coming on, guys. We will see you all soon, and have a blessed day. And we'll see you in a couple hours.
Bye, guys.